Cuts are happening at 49ers training camp, and a big shocker, Darqueze Dennard. It looks like the rookie fifth rounder, Samuel Womack, is going to get the nod, or is he? What is the 49ers depth chart looking like right now as we finish training camp and the 49ers head toward the Minnesota Vikings for joint practices and the latest camp notes as well from Practice Monday? Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. Thanks for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. It is what we do, and it's why you are tuning in. And the big news to start here, we've got a lot of stuff to get into, talking about Zach Wilson's injury with the Jets, how that could impact the 49ers. Maybe they're not out of the woods yet completely. The latest from Rappaport there, and Trey Lance, how he looked at practice. But we talked about this, Croc, and actually it was, less than 24 hours ago when we met here on the podcast and talked about potentially how there could be some surprise veteran cuts in training camp with the latest. There's the first cuts that they got to get from 90 to 85. Then next week they got to go from 85 to 80, and then they got to go all the way from 80 to 53 after the final preseason game before August 30th. So in a couple of weeks, they have to cut this thing all the way down. And there were official cuts that came in on Monday. And Darqueze Dennard, the biggest shocker there. He's been the guy that's been the first string nickel all camp long, except for maybe a practice or two. But, man, I guess – and, look, he got a game ball for us. Rookie fifth rounder Samuel Womack, he looked really good in that first preseason game, and I guess that was enough for the 49ers to say, look, we're going to give this guy the job. And we had talked about the roster crunch that the 49ers could have, specifically at cornerback. And if you keep Darqueze Dennard, then you might have to cut one of the other guys down the line. You're not going to cut Samuel Womack, obviously, but you might have to cut someone like Deommodore Lenoir or Tariq Castro-Fields, one of your more recent draft picks. And now you don't have to do that because you're going to go ahead and release the veteran in Darqueze Dennard instead. Fullback Josh Hokett, wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson, and defensive lineman Tomasi Lalile were also waived. So Darqueze Dennard's a veteran, so he was released. So he goes straight to free agency, so he could sign with the team tomorrow. The other three players do not have that veteran status yet, that time accrued in the league yet. So they are officially waived, so other teams can pick them up off waivers before they hit free agency. So I don't know if they're doing a favor to Darqueze Dennard because they released him early and gives them an opportunity to catch on somewhere else before camp is over. But a little bit of a surprise, right? And it's funny because we talked about how there could be a surprise veteran release, but it was still a surprise this morning to see that Darqueze Dennard has, in fact, been released by the 49ers.
It was a surprise. I think more so a surprise when it happened. You know, I figured if Samuel Womack was going to win that starting nickel job, then that meant that Dennard was going to be gone, right? Like you're not going to keep a veteran around and his contract throughout the year be fully guaranteed, which is probably closer to vet minimum, but either way, fully guaranteed. When you have a young guy who's cheaper, you want to get him all the reps possible. So, you know, I assumed if Womack won it, yeah, he'd be the guy moving forward, and they would release Dennard. But I wasn't expecting it to happen this soon. So we did talk about some veterans who potentially were on the chopping blocks. Talk about Keyshawn Johnson. He ended up actually being released. Dennard was brought up, but not in the sense of thinking he would be one of the five that were going to be released today.
So now looking at the 49ers depth chart at cornerback, specifically nickel corner, Samuel Womack, he was the guy that came in second, and clearly he's going to be the top guy now. And I think this signals that he won the job, right? So congratulations to Samuel Womack. He rolled out as a rookie fifth rounder, another fantastic draft pick by the 49ers. Looked good in preseason game number 1. He's going to have an opportunity to be the starter now as a rookie at nickel corner for the 49ers. And then behind him, you have Dante Johnson. Quantrez Knight has been getting nickel work in camp. So my big question to you, Croc, is we haven't really seen Deommodore Lenoir there. This helps Deommodore Lenoir because one of those there's an extra spot now that Dennard might have had if he made the 53 for another cornerback to make the 53. Do you think we start seeing Diamador Lenore working in at nickel, because you and I both talked about this all through the offseason, that it felt like he was a natural fit to play inside.
It did, and I think you talked about surprises to start the show. I think the biggest surprise is that Diamador Lenore hasn't been seen playing any nickel. I mean, I didn't see it while we were at any other practices. It hasn't been reported that Diamo, that Diamo has been playing at the nickel position. We did not see it in the preseason game when we saw it from a guy like Holman, where he played outside and he played inside in the nickel spot. Did not see it from Lenore. So that's something to definitely continue to keep an eye on. You know, being able to do more helps guys make this 53. And I think that's part of the reason why we're kind of penciling in, or almost writing in permanent ink with Dontae Johnson, that he's going to make this roster because of the versatility, even if they have to let him go and then potentially bring him back. But you know, being able to play safety, being able to play in the slot, being able to play on the outside, he can do so much. And I'm surprised that they haven't been able to do a little bit more with Diamo throughout training camp and preseason game so far.
Left at cornerback now. I talked about the nickel guys there. There's also obviously the starters in Mosley and Charvarius Ward. Both of them are out with some minor injuries, a hamstring. And do we even get clarification on what the muscle? It was a muscle strain or something for Charvarius Ward. Do we know exactly what muscle it even is?
I don't
think we've seen that. Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan's annoyed. He says these injuries are avoidable, but you know, the weird schedule the 49ers have had, I think, has led to it. So I think this week it might be a letdown, and a lot of players aren't going to be practicing, and that's the way it was at practice on Monday. So Mosley's out, Jimmy Ward out, Charvarius Ward not practicing. So a lot of these other guys now getting an opportunity to get more reps. Kadar Holman and Tariq Castro Fields and Dontae Johnson and Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas. And with Tarvarius Moore working in there as starting free safety with Jimmy Ward out. And, you know, obviously I think that just makes Tarvarius Moore even more of a lock. So I don't think safety is even difficult. I think we know what four are going to make it. It's going to be Hufanga and Jimmy Ward as the starters, then Tarvarius Moore and Odom. So as long as there's no other injuries, then unfortunately Taylor Hawkins probably have to go to the practice squad. But as long as there's no other injuries, then the 49ers won't have to do anything and add anybody, and they'll be okay. But, you know, you worry they might have to add somebody if someone does get hurt at the safety spot, unless they really like Taylor Hawkins or they believe Dontae Johnson could come in and do a job there, which he's done in the past. So I think that's why super sub Dontae Johnson's probably in a pretty good spot here as sort of the backup nickel, backup outside corner, backup safety, you know, and can do a lot for your team, play special teams as well. But there's still a lot of bodies. They brought in Ken Crawley after they released last week Leon O'Neal Jr., and then Jason Verrett still hasn't come off the PUP list as well. So if he's going to be ready to play this season, they've got to create a spot for him. So there's almost still a roster crunch, even with the release of Diamador Lenore. So they still might have to make some tough decisions there unless someone starts the season injured. But it's a nice little battle for depth behind the clear starters now, I think, in the 49ers secondary.
I'd assume that you feel more comfortable with this battle of depth as opposed to last season. We remember when Jason Verrett went down week 1, and already you had kind of an injury situation with Emmanuel Mosley. So going into week 2, the 49ers had Diamo Lenore and why am I blanking on his name right now? Veteran cornerback Josh Norman.
Josh Norman. Yeah, Josh Norman was
those were your starting corners.
That's right.
And then remember the next week, Mosley came back. Josh Norman was starting opposite him, and then he got hurt, and then Diamo Lenore had to come in, and he had a couple of hiccups in that game. Some lessons to kind of learn when playing against guys like Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. But, you know, it's tough, and I think right now you feel a little more comfortable with these guys, if healthy. And those soft tissue injuries, those are things that keep kind of piling up for the 49ers right now. I always assumed that it had more to do with how you prepared for the season. For training camp, how you prepare for training camp. You know, going into training camp, you got to make sure that you're doing everything possible throughout that little time off. You know, are you preparing your body to be ready for this kind of rigorous schedule with training camp, being on for 4 days, then off 1 day, then on 4 days, and off 1 day. Like that, that's tough. And you have to be able to prepare for that. And they tried to build up that with the OTAs, but a lot of guys, there's guys that don't go to OTAs, and there are other guys who, once they have that month off, they kind of relax just a little too much. And not saying these guys did that, but that could definitely lead to more soft tissue injuries.
Kyle Shanahan definitely is not happy about some of those injuries that are keeping guys out of practice right now. Okay, next we got to talk about Zach Wilson, his torn meniscus. How bad is it going to be? We will find out when he gets under the knife, and it could be actually more than we realize, according to Ian Rappaport and the latest reports from training camp practice with the 49ers. But next, I want to tell you about a product that I use every single day, every single morning. And it's something that's been a revelation to me. And I had it this morning. I had no coffee. And instead, I had my AG1 Athletic Greens. It's what is this stuff? Basically, one delicious scoop of AG1, and you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. That's what it is. One scoop in water, you stir it up, you drink it, and you get your day started right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of the things that you're trying to do every day. And sometimes you might skip something that gives you those high quality vitamins in one aspect or another of your life, even if you think you have it all covered throughout the day. You think you want to start the day with a little caffeine, and then you got some protein later, and then you've got your veggies here with some food and lunch, and then maybe, but it's so hard to get all those things, and it's nearly impossible. That's what AG1 can do for you. So it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Supports better sleep and quality recovery. And of course, it's not full of caffeine, so it's not giving you the energy through that, which hurts your sleep in the end. And I've been trying to, because I love my coffee, so I still like to have a cup of coffee, but I've been drinking more decaf coffee, going with the AG1, and really feeling the benefits of more energy than I ever did before. Because really, if you're someone who drinks a lot of coffee, you realize it just kind of stops working after a while. But I love the taste still. So I've been trying to do the decaf thing with AG1, and it's worked out really well. Athletic Greens was created by the founder because he had a bunch of gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover, and it cost him $100 a day. He created Athletic Greens after experiencing how difficult it was to recreate an optimal nutrition routine on your own. So take care of yourself, make it easy as well, because Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NFL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Eric Crocker on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast daily, and me and my guy, Matt Williamson, on the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show daily, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So initially, when I saw Zach Wilson hit the turf, non-contact injury, I thought of Jimmy Garoppolo's injury in Kansas City, where he tore his ACL. And I thought for sure Zach Wilson had torn ACL. And then immediately your mind goes to, okay, well, Jimmy Garoppolo, old coaching staff in New York, that's a perfect fit. Maybe that's the next home for Jimmy G. And then it was reported that it was actually good news, and it was a torn meniscus for Zach Wilson, that if it's a minor torn meniscus, which is what they're optimistic about, then that's only a 4-week injury. And maybe
there's 2 injuries here. So there is the minor slight cleanup of the meniscus, but also the bone bruise.
The bone bruise,
which I thought was weird. And if y'all notice, if y'all watch on YouTube, you see me with green nails. My daughter, she wanted to paint my nails today, so that's what that.
I thought you were looking good. I think it's looking real nice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So bone bruise, and look, I've had this exact same injury. I had a meniscus tear a long time ago, and had it repaired, and it was a quick recovery. And now my knee is completely shot and bone on bone. But in my 20s, after I did it, it was fine. It was 100% for a while, and then eventually now it's pretty much bone on bone. And that's kind of the bone bruise thing. Your meniscus protects your femur bone from your shin bone, right? So that's what's protecting in your knee from those two hitting. So if you have a problem with no meniscus in there, the bones hit together, you get a bone bruise. So it's kind of a result of the injury is the bone bruise. And that's what I get now if I play basketball. I'm bone on bone in my knee, and it's not a great situation. So I can get a bone bruise pretty easily from playing hoops and doing some other things. And so but if it's a major meniscus tear and they have to do a meniscectomy, which is a bigger surgery, a bigger problem, he could potentially still be out for the year, according to Ian Rappaport. And they're not going to really know until they open him up and they do the surgery. So Neil Elatrash, who is if that name sounds familiar, it's the guy who did Jimmy G's surgery, I believe. And he's like the guy now that does all the surgeries in the NFL, it feels like. And so he's going to open him up Tuesday. They're going to do that meniscus tear and repair it. And if it's minor, it's going to be 4 weeks. And if it's major, it could still possibly be a year for Zach Wilson. And then we might have to revisit the talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. But they do have Joe Flacco.
Which, they're riding with Zach Wilson, youngster. You want to get him his reps and all that good stuff. I listened to a lot of Sirius radio. And there was someone on there that's part of something with either the Jets media or NFL media or whatever, but he had been in several practices, and he thought that if he had to rank the quarterbacks at Jets camp, he thought Joe Flacco was the best. And he would actually go with Mike White as the second best, and then Zach Wilson as the third best, based off what he'd seen.
That's not good.
And, I thought that was pretty intriguing. And then you listen to their young receiver out of Ohio State talk about, hey, what's the difference between catching passes from Joe Flacco and catching passes from Zach Wilson? And he was like, oh, yeah, there's a big difference, And he basically says, like, all these great things about what makes Joe Flacco a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. Yeah, he says.
Oh no, I did not hear.
That. He just understands how to, not throw hard all the time, and he throws with great pace. He knows when to put a little zip on it, on these drive routes, but then when to kind of feather it in there on these other. And I was like, wow, I can't believe you're saying this out loud.
Wow, that was Garrett Wilson, their first round.
Garrett Wilson, yeah.
And a little too honest, Garrett. You got to learn to play.
They baited him a little bit, and. Okay. I think he just was thinking about, I'm just talking good about Joe Flacco, but not necessarily knowing at the same time he's kind of, pushing down on young Zach Wilson a little bit.
Wow, okay.
Which, I get it. Like, these are things that Zach Wilson's gonna have to learn. Like, he's in his second year. He dealt with injuries as a rookie. I would assume that there would be these kind of up and down moments or mistakes that he needs to learn from or even understand, different ways to throw a pass. Where, Joe Flacco, how old is he? 38, 39 years old? He's played a lot of football. He just gets it. He just understands he's throwing a lot of passes as opposed to a young guy who actually has more pressure on him as well. And there's that aspect of it too.
I understand they have Joe Flacco. If Wilson is done for the year, I think they absolutely make a call for Jimmy G. They've coached him. I'm sure the coaching staff loves him there. They know he can come in and run the offense well. And at least you have to have a competition between Jimmy G and Joe Flacco, if that's the case. Because you have to
you bring in Jimmy G to make it a competition.
You just bring him in to start, period.
Yeah.
And Joe Flacco probably gets pissed and asked to be traded.
He's been a backup. It's like, you just might as well just.
It seems like
a backup.
Maybe it's just his demeanor. He seems like he'd be bitter and annoyed by that.
I'd say at this point in his career, you should be happy to be a backup. Not saying like, oh, you're just blessed to be a backup, but it's like, man, 38 years old, your body has been through a whole lot. Just go ahead, sit back, relax, collect your checks, be a backup quarterback, and not have to take a beating every week and be scrutinized in the media every week. Like, dude, you're past that. You won your Super Bowl. Just go ahead. And again, I know competitors, they don't think that way. So he's probably not going to think that way. But at this point, he's like, dude, just, you're on a backup pay scale. Just go relax and collect your checks. And Jimmy Garoppolo, you go ahead and take all the heat from the media in New York every week.
Yeah, from this doomed franchise. I have a feeling. It's weird, though. Joe Flacco, he's 38 years old. Why is he even still going as a backup? I guess it's a nice little paycheck still, but he's a starter on a Super Bowl team. you don't see that many guys that played at that high of a level. Well, right. We were talking about at one point in time, is Joe Flacco elite? And he's just a backup quarterback and barely hanging on in the NFL. It seems weird. I think most guys
What's his? Let me see his.
go out earlier that have had that much success.
Let's look at his contract real quick. That might tell us everything that we need to know about why he's still currently playing. $3.5 million. Like, heck yeah, man. Sign me up. But again, do I have to play?
Sign me up to not have to play. Yeah, I mean that'd be ideal, right?
I mean, talking about a few $100,000 a week.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I don't know. I can't figure out Joe Flacco. You know who's difficult to figure out is Trey Lance sometimes, man. He's been up and down in training camp, but looks so good in the preseason game. He had a nice little practice, though, on Monday. Let's check in on training camp practice for the 49ers before they shut things down. Travel to Minnesota for the joint practices, which should be a lot of fun later on in the week. But our newest sponsor here at Locked On 49ers is something I'm excited about, and it's something that can help all of you out in your fantasy leagues, being the ultimate sports betting and fantasy companion. I'm talking about the Elias Game Plan app. If Elias sounds familiar, it's because you're a sports fan and you know about the Elias Sports Bureau. And if you're into sports betting or fantasy, you need a competitive edge to win. And since that time of year is here, it's the start of the NFL season, and of course we all love that time of year. Find the ultimate sports betting and fantasy companion for the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball with the Elias Game Plan app. Elias Game Plan is the only sports app from the most trusted name in sports statistics, the Elias Sports Bureau, the official statisticians of U.S. pro sports leagues, including the NFL. Their app lets you access team and player stats, head-to-head team comparisons, and Elias insights from the Elias Sports Bureau's research team. The app is your one-stop source for player news, league-validated player stats, and team records, expert game analysis for betting, building your fantasy team, impressing friends, if that's what you're into with your fantasy leagues, or making that cash, obviously, is what some people are into it for. But, just beating your buddies, I think, is some of the most important stuff, especially in those home leagues when it comes to fantasy football. And take my advice, download the Elias Game Plan app today with the new features available all the time. Take your game to the next level. NFL season is right around the corner, so don't wait. Find Elias Game Plan app in the App Store or Play Store today. Can we talk about our friends at Built Bar? I feel like it's been a little while since we talked about Built Bars, and I've got an order right now on its way to my house with the peanut butter package that they have, which is the peanut butter brownie and the classic peanut butter Built Bars, and the peanut butter is my favorite, but one of the newest is the cookie dough chunk puffs, which is fantastic, and it has been a hit in the Locked On NFL DMs on Twitter when we're chatting behind the scenes trying to argue about what the best Built Bar flavor it is. I think cookie dough chunk puff might have a lead as far as the newer flavors of Built Bars. Chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, and this is the best part, it's healthy for you. You can feel good about reaching for a Built Bar. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories and have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Most Built Bars have only 130 to 150 calories and up to 16 to 18 grams of protein. High protein, low calorie, low sugar. That is the perfect combination of Built Bars, and you can get 15% off with our promo code. Just go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Okay, Croc, two things have happened this week. One is that Trey Lance has a little helium. He had a really nice preseason game. Today, he had a really nice practice. He was 11 of 14 at training camp practice. But another thing we saw, and this is interesting. I want to ask you about this because Deebo Samuel at practice made a one-handed catch on Monday. He's been featured a little bit more since that preseason game in practice. And one of the things the 49ers did was they showed a look in not a period of practice that the media couldn't film or talk about, because you know how there's certain points of practice you're doing teamwork and you can't film it and you can't divulge secrets about what a team is working on. But Kyle Shanahan had the 49ers roll out there in front of the media who were filming it in that portion of practice and showed Trey Lance line up, fake a handoff to the running back, option out, toss it to Deebo Samuel, who had motioned into the backfield, a little classic option show. Is this Kyle Shanahan knowing that everyone's going to be talking about it and filming it, and he just wanted to put that out there so opponents had to work on it? Are we going to see a little straight up old school option with the 49ers this year with a little wrinkle of a wide receiver motioning into the backfield?
The only reason why I believe he actually did it or had to do it, or however I'm trying to word it here, you typically walk through something before you actually do it in team. So I guess he was just like, what the heck? Like, we're going to walk through it. We're going to, take our time to be able to do it, whether we utilize it in this moment here with the cameras out and everybody watching. But it definitely was something that kind of spread like wildfire throughout 49ers media on social media.
Yeah, because you don't really get to see a lot of the fun stuff very often. And clearly, Kyle Shanahan's got a plan for Deebo. I'm sure you knew Deebo was going to sign eventually. You've got your athletic quarterback. There's so many opportunities, so many options for Kyle Shanahan to go in the lab this offseason and create some fun things. And we're probably not going to see much of it. That was maybe a little glimpse of what we could possibly be seeing when the regular season starts. And I can't wait for it. It should be a lot of fun. And I'm sure Kyle Shanahan had a lot of fun getting ready for that. Because remember, the Deebo wideback stuff didn't start happening until midway through the season. That wasn't planned throughout the offseason. Now he's had a whole offseason to say, okay, we got this guy that can do running back type stuff, and he's a wide receiver. Let's go positionless. We got this athletic quarterback now who we know and we're treating as the starter, so we can prepare for all of these things. So that there's going to be a ton of wrinkles. I can't wait for that. 11 of 14 for Trey Lance. We had a Deebo Samuel one-handed catch. We had, and actually that was 11 of 14 with, I think Willie Snead caught a ball and didn't quite get 2 feet in, and Juwan Jennings had a drop. So it could have been 13 of 14 for Trey Lance at camp. So he had one of those nearly perfect days like he had earlier on at the beginning of training camp. So I'm excited for that. And look, we can't look too much into it, but how did it look? And that was one of the big things, Croc, right? And we continue to drive that home. But when we were there, whether Trey Lance, so there was a period where Trey Lance was 3 of 3 to start, then was like 1 of the next 10 or something. It was one of the days where he had a really quote unquote bad day at training camp, but it didn't feel that bad because I was there. I was watching him play. The 3 of 3 part didn't look like amazing. And then the 1 of 12 part didn't look terrible. Like Trey Lance looked like Trey Lance in all of these practices. So I think him having a bad day because he was sub 50% yesterday, having a great day because he was 11 of 14 today, I just don't think that's what's happening. I think he's the same guy every day. There's other factors. And I just want to remind people of that on one of the good days he has too, because we remind people of it sometimes when he has a bad day. It's how it looks. The context of the day is so important, and it's hard to get that with training camp statistics, which is why they're pretty meaningless for the most part.
Right. You talked about Sunday's practice and, the numbers and what it looked like. And then, you find out, well, he had 3 drops by receivers, and 2 of the other incompletions were passes that he, just threw away instead of forcing a pass into coverage. So it's like, well, that's, 5 passing attempts right there. Yeah. I don't look at the numbers, and I think this is what I was trying to say yesterday, but I don't look at the numbers in the sense of trying to figure out, is he developing the right way? Right? Like that's not, I'm kind of past that. I think right now I understand and truly what Trey Lance is. And he's someone who isn't quite pinpoint accurate, which isn't the worst thing in the world. We've heard this with, and again, when I say this, I'm not saying that he's going to be Patrick Mahomes. But what was the thing that Tyreek Hill said this offseason that caused an uproar and people thought was just the craziest thing that they had ever heard? And he said, well, Tua is the most accurate quarterback I play with. He's more accurate than Patrick Mahomes. And I came on here and I said, there's a scenario where Tua is more accurate. Now, does that mean that Tua is a better playmaker? Does that mean that Tua is the more special quarterback? Does that mean that Tua is just a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes? I think even Tyreek Hill would tell you no. But for someone who wants legit catch and run opportunities consistently, I could see how he would say, hey, Tua is more accurate. Well, I think Trey Lance is more in the realm of Patrick Mahomes, where he can get you the ball, but maybe it won't lead to a run after catch opportunity, kind of like what we saw Friday evening when he threw a pass kind of high to Ross Dwelley, right? Where even though it was good coverage, but even if there wasn't good coverage, that ball wasn't in a spot for Dwelly to catch and run. But then we also saw the special that Trey Lance brings with being able to push the ball down the field. And that's not going to stop. And the off-script plays, they're going to continue, and he's going to get more and more comfortable, and you're going to see more of these splash plays. I guarantee it. Like, that stuff is coming this year. And I think there's an area where he definitely needs to continue to grow, and it's just with being more accurate. I just don't think that's going to happen this year, and I don't think that's the craziest thing. So when you hear these practices about, oh, well, his numbers were this on this day, but then, oh, man, 11 to 14 on this day, I don't think about it either way. I know what Trey Lance is right now, and that player is definitely good enough to win a decent amount of games this season.
Yep. Time to throw is a big one that I'm looking for. And he already cut that down. His first preseason game, I believe, was 2.7 seconds time to throw. It's not quite the lightning, sub 2.5 that Jimmy G has been, but it's right in the realm that you want to be for Trey Lance when it was like 3.5 last year. He's one of the slowest times to throw in the NFL. So, processing, get the ball out quick, timing, I think, is big. And then, of course, accuracy. And a lot of those things is just reps for Trey Lance. He hasn't played a lot of football. He's going to get better in all of these aspects. And it's pretty exciting to see how good he is already, even though he still has a lot of development to do with those reps and the finer points of playing football. He'll become more accurate. His timing will get better. He'll get the ball out quicker. He'll just get better and better at reading defenses. And, when he's 38 years old, like Joe Flacco, and the young kids in there will be like, well, yeah, this is a professional quarterback. It looks way better the way he does it because he's been doing it for so long. Maybe he doesn't have that, even if he doesn't have the wow ability, but Trey Lance does have some wow ability to go with it. So that'll be fun when those things all come together, and it might not be for a couple of years.
There was a player, or excuse me, a blogger or whatever from the Green Bay Packers, and he was talking about Trey Lance. And it was definitely someone who is worried about what Trey Lance and Kyle Shanahan together are going to be. And, I mean, it sounded like someone that was almost in, like, distraught and truly, like, worried and scared of what this combo and what this tandem is going to be with Trey Lance's ability and being able to stretch the field and being able to utilize the entire field with Kyle Shanahan playing puppet master and what that could be. And he's just like, in the next 2 years, it's over. It's like it's over. And he basically said what Patrick Mahomes is to the AFC, where you just know they're always going to have that chance, that opportunity. He said, man, that's what Kyle Shanahan has with Trey Lance. And he said he's got his guy. And he said everybody should be worried.
It's so exciting.
Again,
and
we gotta understand what that development curve is going to look like for him. But I think people, they're starting to see it. They see where the potential is there. And I think for us who, we dial in, we're there, we watch practice, we see it, and, it's like, oh, okay, but other outsiders are looking like, nah, this guy's going to be the real deal.
Yep. And you have the defense to go with it. If you have that Shanahan running game, it's going to be hard to stop. And Trey Lance this year only has to be not a disaster, essentially. He has to be okay, keep his head above water, continue to grow. But what it could become could be really amazing. And who knows, maybe it'll come even quicker than we expect. But there's a lot to be excited about for the 49ers and their young quarterback for sure. All right. Thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out the Peacock and Williamson NFL show, Locked On NFL Draft, and Vinny Ayers, 20 years of experience, Locked On Fantasy Football. Get ready for those fantasy football drafts right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Croc and I back tomorrow. Locked On 49ers.